welcome to everybody who's joined us for our webinar today. We're talking about MA in International Film Business from London Film School and the University of Exeter. We'll be running through a presentation for everybody. They'll still be on screen. This is going to be recorded, so if anybody wants to receive it afterwards, you will receive it on email. If anybody has any questions, please do let us know. We have a little Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, so submit any questions that you will have and we'll get to those at the very end. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Chris Auty, William Higbee and Michael Franklin, and they are going to lead us through this webinar.
So we're speaking to you both from Exeter and from the London Film School. I'm sitting in my office. My name is at the London Film School. My name's Chris Auty. I'm the director of the school. I am by career a film producer and have been involved in the film industry here in the UK and internationally for a very long time. I've worked with filmmakers like Bernardo Bertolucci and David Cronenberg, but also Michael Winterbottom, and even the legendary and late great towering figure of cinema, Agnès Varda, the French filmmaker. Anyhow, I now run the London Film School, and it's my great pleasure to introduce our leading colleagues, senior colleagues from Exeter. And I promised I would try and make him blush, and I will in due course. But the founder of the course is with us today, and that's William Higbee, who's the senior leading academic on this program. William, over to you.
Thanks, Chris, and a warm welcome to everyone who's joined the call. Yes, as Chris said, I've been involved in the MA International Film Business from the start when we began our partnership with the London Film School and looked to develop this, what we thought was a very unique program and one that played to the strengths of the London Film School as a leading international film school and the strengths of Exeter University as a leading Russell Group university in the UK and an internationally research-intensive university. So it's a real pleasure to welcome you all here. I'm a professor in film studies. My background is an academic one, but I work very closely in across the years in a number of research projects with industry, most particularly in a quite large international grant, which was looking at the rise of the Moroccan film industry and thinking about ways in which national cinemas can kind of integrate their particular unique offerings to international audiences through innovative distribution methods and through the international festival circuit. So I'm really delighted to be here with you all, and we'll just pass over to my colleague, Michael Franklin, Dr. Michael Franklin. Michael, over to you.
Hey, thanks, Will. Thanks, Chris. It's wonderful to be with you, everyone, today. My name's Michael. I'm an academic, but also an industry-focused academic at the University of Exeter. So I do research projects, often with digital innovation. So I work with BFI, British Screen Forum, Sundance, and various film funders doing research in the film industry. And my background in relation to the program is actually as an external examiner. I first joined the course many years ago, did my term of several years as the external examiner, and then was able to join the course as a practitioner, a teacher, researcher the last couple of years. And I jumped at the chance to be part of this and moved to Exeter to do so because it's such a fantastic program. And so, yeah, really enjoying being part of the LFS and Exeter team on this really unique joint program. Right.
I think it's worth saying that the three of us, in a way, between us, represent some of the qualities that the course brings and its unique qualities. For example, Michael and I first met not through academia. We met through a leading think tank, the British Screen Forum, on which I was involved and Michael Franklin was consulting for, and for whom he's now running a significant industry research program around finance for films over the last, 20 years, Michael? I think that's right, isn't it? It's a significant research program around the economic history of British filmmaking. And obviously, William and I have many occasions to meet, and we are both passionate about French cinema. Professor Higbee's speciality is the cinema of North Africa. And so I've learned a lot from him. and we enjoy discussing some of the more arcane aspects of French culture together. But that just gives a flavour for the internationalism that both institutions bring to this course, the combination of academic rigour and business interest that we bring to this course. And I suppose the willingness to synthesize those learnings together so that we bring a kind of interrogative academic discipline on the one hand and a real kind of insight learned through analysis and through experience of the structures of not just the UK film industry, that would not be very helpful for you, but the cinemas of the world. And I think it's fair to say this is a program that focuses on world cinema as a subject of study while it trains you to become, as it were, executives. And it's primarily an executive training program to become executives within the global film industry. But I won't witter on. It's, I think, time to hand back to Will so that he can take us through the course in a little bit more detail and talk a bit about what the course contains.
Okay, great. Thank you, Chris. Yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit about the kind of give you a broad overview of the program, and Michael will then talk in more detail about the individual modules. We'll go into more of a deep dive there. And just to say, if you do have any questions, as Holly said earlier, please do either pop them into the chat, or there'll be time at the end of the webinar, plenty of time for you to ask questions. But feel free, if you've got a sort of like a question that you want to ask, just to pop the question in the chat. So the program has been running for 12 years now. It's very much a program that was conceived, developed, and is delivered between Exeter and the LFS. And I think as Chris has already mentioned, one of the things that really drove us to create this program was a sense that there wasn't anything out there that could offer this kind of combination of academic rigor and the kind of research expertise from within those particular institutions with the kind of practical industry facing network and knowledge of an institution like the London Film School. So that's always been our kind of driving ambition with the program, is to bring those two things together and to bring you something that, you know, one institution, either a university or a film school delivering on their own, could not actually, you know, could not really provide all of the sort of like the knowledge, expertise, and different kind of approaches to this. So we're really, really proud of this course. And I think it's one that we feel is, as Chris said, very much has an international focus. You know, of our we're going to talk about alumni a bit later, but of our 450 graduates from the program, well over 95% of them come from outside of the UK. That richness, that diversity, and also the kind of reach of our alumni network and the knowledge within the program is something that we're really, really proud of. So this really is when we say international film business, we really mean that. This is a program that focuses on key and emerging markets, but is also one that is very much has a global outlook. The combination, as I've mentioned already, between a university and a film school means that we have a range of really fantastic tutors to take you through the various modules and help assist you in your learning and research. So we have leading academics from Exeter University, we have specialist tutors and from the London Film School who themselves straddle kind of teaching within the film school and, you know, very kind of experienced and successful careers in the industry as well, along with, and this is something we also emphasize, working in collaboration with our academic and tutors. We have industry specialists who may come in as to do a masterclass. They may come in to deliver a particular session as a sort of as what we might call an industry tutor. They also might be providing assistance in relation to mentoring on the dissertation, and that's something we'll come back to later. But again, that kind of knowledge of kind of cutting edge experience from within the industry, combined with the excellence and expertise that we hold in teaching and in research at the University of Exeter and also at the London Film School, is really, really important to us. And also to say that that means that this is a program that's always evolving and developing and drawing from those particular strengths, an industry-facing program, which is also very much grounded in the sort of expertise and sort of capacity of a research-intensive university like Exeter, which has very much a global reach.
It's also fair to say, isn't it, Will, that the numbers of students we're talking about really are limited by number. And so you would know a huge proportion, for example, of the several hundred students who've gone through the program to date. Many of them are still in touch with you. In fact, the level of personal contact between you individually, my colleagues here, and so on, with alumni is extensive. We maintain a very active alumnus engagement profile, partly through LinkedIn, partly in person. Last year, we ran a very successful event twice, once in Exeter and once in London, to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the course. And I was, being a relative newcomer, only 2 years in, was astonished at the level of depth of engagement that existed between the alumni and you personally and some of your colleagues in Exeter. It was really remarkable.
Yeah. Thanks, Chris. I think that is really important to us. We maintain that contact with the alumni network. And indeed, as I think one of what we see as the measures of success of the program is the longevity, the number of years that this has been successfully running and recruiting, but also the fact that now we're getting to a stage where we can bring our alumni back in to work with us, maybe as supervisors or industry mentors on dissertations, or coming in to do masterclasses, or just connecting us to their networks. And it's always, I know also that when we're attending kind of events such as the Cannes Film Festival, as part of the field trip that we have, that also if our alum are present working, then they're always keen to kind of connect with our current students as well. So that crossover and that link and a sense of community for this program, I think, is really, really important to us as well. And I think that can go from the connections and the network that you make within your particular cohort that you come and meet, because immediately you're building your own kind of network for the future of the industry on the program. It's also about often those very experienced high level executives that we will bring in to do masterclasses or work with us on the program. But also, and again, this is something that Michael will speak to in more detail, is that possibility of even having kind of one-to-one support and supervision on your final dissertation project, not only with an academic supervisor, but also with an industry mentor who is specifically kind of identified and selected to really support you and allow you to move that project forward. So that kind of connection and that synergy between industry and between the film school and the university, so between the academic and the kind of the practitioner and the industry, is really, really important to us. And that's something that we really strive to integrate within the program. It's not just about bringing in an industry specialist to come and speak to you in isolation from the tutors. It's about how we bring those people into the program and ensure that you're really seeing the kind of ways in which what we're teaching in the classroom is reflected in the sort of in the insights and the the expertise that our industry guests are coming and bringing to masterclasses and other types of sessions. So that to us is really, really important in this program, and that kind of global reach as well, as I said. And maybe that is the moment for me to hand over to Michael to talk in a bit more detail about the particular modules that we offer, which will also give you a flavour of how we integrate that kind of approach into the program across the 3 terms. So Michael, I'll hand over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, there's a really, really good point about our wonderful alumni who are also, as we mentioned, over a decade of this program now. So we're at very different stages of careers. So we get people who have been doing a decade of work, at a very high level in international film business, who are able to come and share their experiences, expertise at a very high level, as well as people who maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 years in, early careers, and able to speak to that starting point of getting from internship into first jobs and the really exciting opportunities that are existing across the entertainment media space sort of overall. So I was really encouraged to have great conversations over the last couple of years from people working in talent agencies in LA, people working in studio systems in the larger scale US MPAA studios, as well as people working as independent producers. And you get a great range, especially from our alumni, but also from the industry experts that come in who haven't been alumni, but also are working across our different modules. And as you can see, we've got this three-term structure, but 2 terms with specialisms across the different locations. So in the first term, we're all at Exeter, and we've got this dual system of looking at the international film.
Worth explaining, Michael, isn't it, that what you can see on the call in the picture is the Exeter campus on a particularly lovely blue cloudless day, looking beyond that towards the sea. And on the prior slide, you could see that picture, but you could also see our base in the centre of London, about 200 yards from the Royal Opera House. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No. It's a great
context around what the physical spaces that we're in.
We have this benefit of the duality of place and also atmospheres, and you can see this sort of beautiful green area. And for those who have not made it to Devon before, it's a beautiful place to be. We have beaches. People will be surfing and swimming right now, sailing, enjoying the green spaces there. And it's a campus university. It's a beautiful space to be. And then, of course, in term 2, when we move to London, some really exciting things. As Chris mentioned, we're next to the Opera House. There, BFI is just over the river. So many exciting things. The hub of the what one would say international film industry in Soho, right there. So we have this two terms, different places, plus the third term, which I'll mention in a second in regards to dissertation. And the first term, we've got the approaches, concepts, and strategies module, which is very looking at the fundamentals of the film business. So from intellectual property, from legal to financial modeling, from analysis. So very, very core fundamentals of the business. And the distribution and markets course, which makes use of a lot of the fantastic expertise that have already been mentioned here. So this is an international film business course. We're looking at the different cinemas around the world. So we have wonderful experts coming, Dr. Yanlin Yang coming from China to give expertise there. Professor Higbee talking about both French cinema and North African cinema. We have Dr. Rastogi talking about Indian cinema. So real experts from the academic point of view, which we allied to the understanding of the business with the core concepts. So working on, for example, exhibition, sales, distribution, and getting this best of both worlds, this interconnection of the two elements. So this runs right through term 1, and we have quite a variety of different assignments and assessments. So you'll be working, yes, on pieces of research analysis, but also on active practical applications in terms of exhibition, running pop-up cinema. In the past, we've done lots of these practical, very prosaic, but very applied skills. And this, again, also moves into term 2. So in term 2, move over to London, to the LFS, and we have the entertainment value chain and the models of innovation modules. These are taught at LFS. The entertainment value chain is taught by LFS. Models of innovation is shared by LFS and Exeter. So I'm very happy to talk about this because it's my favorite. I get to talk on models of innovation. And as Chris mentioned, it's what very kindly the area I'm working on in particular at the moment is with the British Green Forum and BFI, looking at new models of financing, distribution, and activity with regards to data infrastructure. So really able to talk and give examples of these live innovation projects. So in term 2, these two modules which run concurrently, but with integrated ideas building on what's gone in term 1. So developing specialism, developing ideas, again with guest masterclasses, again with alumni coming to visit, but also with practical, exciting assignments, and this builds into a visit to an international film festival, which itself has live projects going on there. So people last year, I'm sure Chris will mention in a little while, a fantastic time in a Cannes Film Festival, delivering the final assignments for the entertainment value chain proposition. And that, I think, is worth foregrounding in that we can see this move from the film business to sort of expanding our reach to understand other elements of entertainment. So we have, multiple different screen industries which interact with the film business, right? So using the value chain as a concept to see what is traditional, what is very much new. So the models of innovation, looking at what is being brought into and what is changing, what is current in relation to the global film business and the entertainment sector, so overarchingly. And that allows us then to move into term 3, which is the dissertation. And you've got these two options, a project dissertation, which involves a portfolio and looking at different projects. So we have people developing business plans, feasibility studies, websites, a portfolio of different types of content alongside research. And the other option being a written dissertation, much more concentrated piece of analysis on a particular issue. So people are able to build up their interest in these specialist areas, and then in term 3, really, really look to something that they really care about. And often it's something that people would like to work on in the future. So we've had brilliant people working on business plans for the project they've had in mind since moving maybe from a different place around the world and really wanting to set up this company or this idea or this film. And the dissertation is an opportunity to do that. And as has already been mentioned, you get not only a series of supervisions with an academic specialist for the area, so that might be in cinema, for example, but also an industry mentor who's allied there to give practical insight to how this project might be developed. So you've got both sides of the coin continuously throughout term 1, term 2, and term 3. So those are sort of intertwined throughout the year.
And I mean, just picking up on Michael's point about term 3, I was with the students, and indeed I have been for the last 2 years while I've been at the London Film School. It's like Michael, I bring a certain passion to this course because it very much reflects my own business history and experience. So it's a great pleasure for me, actually, personally, to meet the cohort and help the tutors if I can. I don't interfere, and I'm not a teacher here. I'm just the head of school. But as an example, one of the students asked me for some suggestions on virtual reality filmmaking. And as it happens, I knew the head of one of the VR studios in London and was able to introduce that student to the head of the VR studio while they were in Cannes. Never a better moment, really. And another student from Brazil was talking about possibly setting up a business in Brasilia, and I was able to introduce her to a leading Brazilian film producer from Sao Paulo who has extensive experience and is, an international producer as well. And those kind of connections are the kind of things that we can bring to the table that are really helpful. And it sort of rounds off both the academic and the industry facing journey that students go on through this unusual year, not to mention the fact that they get to see the best bits of the UK, both the sort of beauty of Devon, which most British people think is the most beautiful part of the country, and London, which is, of course, really is one of the top 3 global hubs for the entertainment industry, alongside Los Angeles. So it's a very unusual proposition that we are offering.
I know we're going to go on to talk about the alum and where our students go and the kind of careers they end up in a moment. But just one more thing to add there, which when Michael was speaking about the nature of the dissertation in term 3, and also Chris mentioning about the way in which we're always on the MA, we're always trying to kind of make those connections for you whenever we can, because part of studying on a program like this is also about how you, as a future, we hope a future executive within the industry and within the international film business, begin to create your network and build your network. So we're always happy to kind of make those introductions and try and use the combined networks at Exeter and the London Film School to do that for you. The other thing I would say is across all of the modules that Michael's outlined across the terms and with the dissertation, we're always looking to try and present the assessment that we ask you to do to be as relevant and as kind of industry facing as possible, in the sense that we want you to be doing assignments that are actually going to kind of provide you and equip you and help you develop particular skills. Now, that could be skills in presentation or pitching. It could be skills in negotiation. It could be understanding how to write a finance plan. It might be about producing sort of the pop-up cinema event, which is about learning around kind of skills around programming, curation, event management. But within all of the assignments, and this is something we're really, really keen on, and we're constantly looking at and revising, is trying to make sure that we're giving you the kind of opportunity through the assessment, not only to put your knowledge into practice, but also to hone, to develop, and sometimes to learn new skills that are going to bring that you're going to apply to your career in the international film business and in the industry. And that's really, really important to us as well, which is precisely why when it comes to the dissertation, you have your academic supervisor, but you also have an industry mentor who's helping you to shape that project. And we're always also thinking about what you're learning and what you're applying and where that can take you after the masters.
We jokingly say, don't we, Will, that people who've gone through the course end up understanding how to write three pieces of writing that might be about the same topic, but they're written in three entirely different ways. One might be something that would be akin to a consultancy report, as if McKinsey or a company like that was looking at a sector or looking at a particular company. One is perhaps akin to the kind of paper that somebody might have to put forward to their own company board for proposing the launch of a new division or a new business. And the third type of analysis would be the kind of analysis that you would achieve and that you do deliver as an academic piece of writing. And the subject matter might be the same, but the treatment will be rather different. And those skills, analytically and in terms of your ability to synthesize and then deliver and write, and indeed physically present in your own person, those outcomes is really the key to training you as business people, to have lucidity, a synthetic understanding of how to present things, and then the confidence and the ability to do that live in front of an audience.
Yeah, I think that's a lovely example. I mean, just even most recently, I'm supervising dissertation students at the moment. The LFS ran in one of the modules ran a fantastic consultancy-oriented assignment with live projects at Cannes. They're now, one of the students is working on inward investment and policy, being able to be mentored by someone at Olsberg SPI, who's a leading consultancy with whom I've worked, and the integration of these learning opportunities and therefore career development is really fantastic. And as you can see from this slide, we have an incredible successful suite of alumni companies we're able to mention. We can't include them all here, but leading lights of the international film business where people are working. And as you can see from the photographs, we had a fantastic couple of events, not only which allowed us to sort of reconnect with people from across the world, beaming in and having great connections, but also to realize the great scope of different types of career that people are involved in, from very traditional practical film value chain roles, which are well defined, to much more new and current, newly developing entrepreneurial experiences, as well as some working for very high profile cultural organizations and taking a management and executive leading role. So you can see that by looking online the great variety of experts we've been able to produce, and also able to call on as resources from the 10 years or more, 12 now, of the program.
I mean, in fact, I had one of the alumni on the phone yesterday, Michael, Oscar Narbel, who's currently working for a new film investment fund, actually a short-term fund called Vacancy. And he's been there now for 18 months, I think. And clearly he's working like a dervish, but he's also having a huge amount of fun. And that sort of feedback loop there's a young person who's really progressing very rapidly into the film financing area, happens to be based in London. Oscar happens, I think, to be Swiss by nationality, trilingual, absolutely classic example of a really good student on the course.
Yeah, I think the other thing to say about that, the kind of the reach of the alumni, is that and we also encourage this, from the moment that you join the program, you're building your own network within your cohort, but also you become part of a wider network, of a wider alumni network, which, as we said, is over 400 strong, more than 30 countries, and there are kind of there's an opportunity there for you to really kind of connect and amplify your sort of like your network through the alumni network, and we're very keen to kind of make those connections. We want to increase the sort of activity that is actually led by our alumni and led by our former students, so we can be giving exactly the right kind of opportunities and to support to allow the alumni network to flourish. I mean, Chris and Michael have already mentioned some of the areas that and that our alumni go into. I think it really does go right across the value chain. All of the areas that we teach, from development, production, through to distribution, sales. We've got an exhibition. We've got students who are working in those areas. We've also got students who take what they learn on the program, and particularly a kind of the entrepreneurial approach that we would encourage, and are working in an increasingly disrupted global media environment, are kind of taking those skills and applying them to other areas as well. So I think there's a real wealth of kind of knowledge and opportunity within that network, that alumni network. And that is also something that if you join the program, you will be getting access to. And not to mention as well, we have students who have, alumni who have had films as largely as producers, but have had films selected for, for Berlin, for the London International Film Festival. I can think of, alumni from Egypt, from Taiwan, from China, and from Dominican Republic as well, who are kind of really active on the festival circuit. And it's always great if we can kind of connect with them when they are attending various festivals and markets. And if our alumni are there, we always want to be able to connect those groups together. So we're trying to build a virtual alumni network which can work for our alum of the program, but also that kind of face-to-face connection if you're in the same part of the world or at the same festival or market as some of our alumni. We're also really keen to make those connections as well.
It's also true to say that when the students from the program come into London Film School, the environment they're entering here, we only have 300 students. So the ability to network inside the school here, where we have a full production facility, basically, we run a conservatoire. That is our main activity. So students on the MAIFB program are meeting literally scores of young writers, directors, and camera people who are working on their films. And obviously, the ability to pick up talent, nurture talent, and engage with talent that is itself also global, by the way, because the school LFS as a whole is 52 nations deep, and largely non-UK, actually, by source. That adds a certain kind of spice to the mix, because it means that the business folk coming through the MAIFB program are meeting lots of the creatives who are spending 2 years in London on that filmmaking program, which is very much a studio-based film making and film post-production physical filmmaking program. But it adds a certain excitement and obviously a considerable social joie de vivre, because we're all in the centre of town, and we're all from all over the world. Good question. This headline, I think, is a fascinating one, and it's Michael's slide, I think, to talk to, but I think we can all contribute to it. I mean, Michael, do you want to take it first, or what would you like to do?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we've sort of already talked to the kind of skills that we like to see practiced within the IFB, and the ability to deliver, as you said, an executive education and an executive level education, so that people are able to go into really well-established, world-leading companies and represent themselves well and deliver, quality work such that they're able to take a first step into a professional industry at industry level standards. That is our goal. So it's the ability, of us to make people ready for that and to have people come onto the course that are motivated to do this work and this level of work. So I was so happy last year. One great student was particularly interested in data analytics, managed to go from an internship in an MPA studio to then go through to a full career starting position in the studio. I think it was a different studio actually they moved to, but at the same level straight away from, I think they started their position, I believe it was in May. So that level of ability is important, and it's something that was mentioned in relation to our different assessment practices, that you have the ability to do research and analytics, but also to marry that with a love of cinema. Hopefully I think it comes across from Chris and Will's speeches about their love for cinema. This is a particularly unique program for someone who is incredibly committed to the love of cinema and wants to work on it and make it better. And that includes, responding to the entrepreneurial challenges, responding to the economic and technological developments in the industry, and being able to talk to them and deliver research, new ideas, familiarize themselves with the existing talent base and develop that talent base in a very exciting environment. So we're looking for people with the capacity to learn and be committed to do this work. And we have a wonderful suite of resources, human and otherwise, to allow people to flourish and go into the industry in that way. So that is...
It's fun. It's a funny thing, isn't it, Michael? I think sometimes it's the range of the course that most impresses me. And as I say, I came to the course, only 2.5 years ago when I joined the school, although of course I knew of it. And I think it's that at one end, we're looking at very big picture stuff. There's an article in this week's Economist, which I'm going to circulate to all of the students, about the globalization and localization simultaneously of the entertainment industry worldwide, and the paradox of globalization and localization happening at the same time. It's a very big picture, and as you would expect from the Economist magazine, very carefully analyzed and data-driven analysis of the film and television industry on the one hand. On the other, we might be looking at something very granular around what are the sort of barriers to entry for someone who's starting this particular niche business in this particular area of the industry, who's facing these particular sets of problems, but has these particular kind of unique selling propositions. So that it's somewhere between what you might expect to get out of a short course MBA at the one end and a kind of culturally facing analytical academic program at the other. And it's a really interesting hybrid of those two approaches to the kind of stuff we teach.
Yeah, sorry, well, go ahead.
Yeah, the other thing I would add there is that something that's always driven us on the program is, and this is something that's developed through the 12 years the program has been running. We're conscious that we are living through a period of incredible transformation, disruption, and change within the international film business. And what we want to do with the program is also equip our students with the ability to understand that kind of what is being disrupted, which means that you need to understand the history and the development of particular, key and emerging markets, particular business models, the kind of way in which the industry was structured, to understand why it's being, what that disruption means. But that also places you in a better position with the kind of critical thinking, analytical skills that we're talking about as well, which we're kind of very keen for you to develop on the master's program, to think about, okay, in this period of intense kind of disruption and change, what is the direction that the industry should be taking? And again, many of the kind of speakers that you all have who will come, from with incredible knowledge from the industry, will be speaking to you precisely about that kind of period of change and thinking about the direction that the industry needs to move in. And I think that's really important as well. That's something that we are, and Chris has just said, having read something that's just come out from The Economist, this week, I think one of the things we're really conscious of is this is a fast-moving environment. And when we're teaching you, sometimes we're teaching you changes that are happening as we go across the term or the year or even the week, right? But I think it's really important to us as well that we hold that really kind of current perspective, forward thinking, but that is also grounded in an understanding of where the international film business has come from, so you can understand what is being disrupted and where we're moving to, and have the right kind of perspectives and hopefully solutions to lead the international film business and to be industry leaders in the future.
And for every student to work out what place they can probably, possibly, and happily, I think happily as well, occupy within that ecosystem. And I think that's very much the function of this being a relatively tightly governed, tightly held, tightly enjoyed cohort with a very significant alumnus backup. I don't know how you feel about this, Will and Michael, but I think we've probably got time now to move on to some. I think there are some video testimonials to come, and then maybe that gives us some time to take any discussion points or elaborate on a wrap up before we leave everyone, because I see that we've only got 20 minutes left. Are you happy to do that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect.
Now, I think Holly, who is the MC, unspoken MC behind all of today's activity. Holly, are you happy to run the testimonials?
Absolutely. I'm going to hope that the technology doesn't let me down here, so let's go for it. Oh,
I'm Tyler Morrison. I'm from Eagle, Colorado. I'm doing the MAIFD International Film Business Program at London Film School. I've been going to lots of conferences. I came right out of undergrad, so I'm still green to the industry. So I've been going to a lot of conferences, shaking hands at the US pavilions. I also went to the American pavilion. I snuck in a little bit, but they let me in. They accepted me with open arms. I got to ask a lot of questions to distributors, screenwriters. I'm going through the whole value chain and carrying around this little notebook and taking notes.
Which territory are you researching?
I'm doing independent US. The US is the only territory so far that doesn't have government subsidies. It's based on states, and then within those states, sometimes based on cities. So there's lots of people from Baton Rouge or New Orleans or Jacksonville or from Hawaii that are trying to sell just that one territory rather than the US as a whole. So it's been interesting shaking those hands and it not being very California based. However, at the American Pavilion, where you have to pay to get in, it's owned by Penske, that has been a very California, Hollywood focused indie wire cinema.
I think you made a really interesting point there, because we always think of the States as one thing from outside, and it's so not that.
Very good.
And I think that, you and I were talking the other day. I don't normally teach at the school, but I did a short lecture there the other day. And we were talking about that kind of the way you kind of break up the cultural bit from the economics bit.
Absolutely.
And how you analyze that. What's been the best thing, would you say, about the course so far?
I think definitely the connections. We bring in a lot of industry professionals, and they allow us to ask challenging questions. Not everything that everybody does is correct. And they accept the criticism and the challenge, and often answer with a lot of honesty. And it's not just a marketing ploy to put themselves forward. They tell you where they've stumbled or where their gaps are. They help you realize what you need to do to be better or realize your own path. It's very helpful.
Hello, my name is Larissa. I am from Brazil. I have a background in law, business, and event production. I am working on a research project with my group in Cannes for a family drama. We're doing a sales and finance pack. And I'm also trying to keep some conversations going for my master's thesis. I think that the program really helped me to understand the business as a whole, and I think it accelerated my way into the business, because I have a background in event production and I didn't have the dimension of what the film business really is before I had the course. So I think it gave me a lot of options as well that I didn't know it existed in terms of work and what career path that I can follow. So I think it's been really useful, and I'm very grateful to be part of it.
The most valuable lesson, I think probably just making sure that I'm constantly aware of changes in the industry, because it changes very fast all the time. So I think just making sure that you're constantly on top of industry publications, that you're listening to what executives and professionals across a range of departments in the industry are saying, and discussing like how those changes are taking place with other people that you know in the industry, whether that's fellow students or professionals, just making sure that you're on top of how those changes are happening in real time. I really enjoyed the interactive elements of it. There was a lot of emphasis on pitching, on development, on presentation. So I think that was really good for developing people's public speaking skills. And there was very much an emphasis on how we weren't just students, but we were also young professionals going into the industry, and they treated us as such. So a lot of those interactive elements were very focused on how we are professionals in the making, and we should act like we are talking to other professionals, pitching our hopefully future projects. For one specific assignment, I was developing a pitch for a horror-focused production company, and it was specifically focusing on sort of elevated horror per se. So films like Get Out, Midsummer, the kind of horror that A24 was producing, horror that has a bit more of a sense of depth to it and a bit more of a sociological dimension beyond just the craft of horror filmmaking. I was developing this pitch to take to financiers and explain this is what this horror production company focuses on, and this is exactly what it will entail. And so I spent a good few weeks developing this pitch, honing it, and I think it was because the pitch had to focus on it had to incorporate such a broad breadth of what a production company entails. So how they source financing and how that financing is spent over the course of a number of years. And all these very little intricate details that actually make up the bread and butter of a production company, not just here's this cool script that we've got and here's this director we've got on board. There was an actual sense of you need to structure this and manage this like a business and prove to other industry professionals that you can manage great big budgets like a professional. And so I think the course of that really helped elevate my understanding of film financing, how to manage festival financing and markets, and how to present a production company as though it's an actual company and a business and not just an idea on a piece of paper or PowerPoint presentation.
Thank you, Holly.
It's interesting that the last testimonial you saw from Alex, I heard from him last month, and he'd started a new post as a production and communications exec for a company that specializes in podcasts. Because one of the things he'd also been interested in when he'd been on the program was using podcasts as a kind of R&D space to develop ideas for as he said, he was interested in horror, and so he's kind of moved that kind of interest across as well, which is great to see, and good to see that he's keeping in touch and letting us know that he's just moved on to a new post.
It's interesting as well to point out to those of you who are joining us today, the first two clips were filmed. One was filmed on the street, as you could tell, in Cannes. One was filmed at the Next Pavilion in Cannes, which is the forward-thinking, blue skies facing analytics department of the Cannes Film Festival, which looks at future technology. And then the third one actually was coming to you from one of our own filmmaking studios here at London Film School. So all that stuff you could see in the background was sort of materials for building sets. And we'd obviously snuck in a video while we were on the hoof by the side of one of our shooting stages. It just gives you a feeling for the texture, as it were, of the course, with three very different voices from three very different countries, all speaking about their three very different ambitions, in fact. It's very interesting to hear your comment, Will, about that. I mean, one of the things that always strikes me is the diversity of outcomes that the course leads to. I think we've seen people who've gone straight into the television industry, people who've made a career in commercials. One of the alumni who contributed in Cannes, in fact, had built a successful career path in Latin American commercials production, but was also making films. So you see that multifarious outcome, some working as career employees, others working as freelance producers. It really does show that the width of ambition of the course not just by geography, but by outcome.
Thanks everybody. So just moving on to our questions. As you can see, we have an email address there for anybody who would like to email any questions over at a later date. But in the meantime, we have got a couple of questions that have been submitted. So how about I read them out and then perhaps our lovely three speakers could contribute towards answering them. So our first question, hello, based on your experience, do more students secure internships or jobs in the UK or in their home countries after graduation? And is it realistic to start working in the film industry in London after graduation?
I don't know about the statistics. It definitely is realistic to work in the industry because Oscar Narbel, who was one of the people I mentioned earlier, is doing exactly that. He's working in finance at one of the three leading finance companies in London for film. But William, what do you think about the wider question?
Yeah, I think obviously with a master's program like this, you have the opportunity to apply for the graduate visa, which allows you time to sort of stay in the UK and to sort of like pursue your career. I think that again, I don't have a statistic to hand, but my sense is that a good number of our students want to take the skills that they've acquired and the knowledge they've acquired and often go back to their own to their own country that they're from to develop their career in the industry there. But there is a strong proportion who remain and develop their careers, particularly focused around London. So as Chris said, it absolutely is possible. We can connect you to some of our students who have done just that. If there's particular interest to get more of a sense of the kind of work that they've been doing and where they have ended up. But I think that it absolutely is a viable pathway and opportunity. I think the thing that I would also say is that a lot of the work that we do with our students on the program, as we said before, is to also to introduce you to those particular networks to sort of to give you a kind of sense if you want to stay and work in the UK and in London particularly, you know, the opportunities that are there and to help you build that network. And so again, you know, we can't guarantee anyone you know, a job after the program, but we've got plenty of examples of where you know, work through, you know, connections that have been made through the program, through the sort of like master classes, and especially on the dissertation, can lead to sort of like opportunities emerging and people applying and successfully landing jobs. I can give one example there of an industry mentor on a dissertation program. It was specializing in sales, and the particular student in question was really keen to go into international sales. Now, the mentor that he worked with worked for a very kind of you know, successful sales company, and there wasn't an opportunity or an opening in their particular company. But the mentor was so impressed with what she'd seen from this student that she happily made some introductions and recommendations. And off the back of that, the student was able to land the kind of particular, you know, a sort of like a role that they were kind of like really, that was really had been their ambition from coming onto the program. So I think that way in which, you know, the program can also give you the opportunity to kind of introduce you to the right kind of networks is also important. I mean, I have to say there that, you know, this is an industry where connections and networks are really important, as is knowledge and understanding, but also that resilience and tenacity to sort of like take advantage of those opportunities that are put forward. And that kind of combination, if you can make that work, I think it really is a, you know, the program becomes a really strong launching pad into your career after the MA International Film Business.
Thank you both. Our second question, is the course content adjusted according to where students come from?
We're not writing a bespoke telephone directory, I think is my answer to that. We've had this question quite often. So the fact that we have a student from Brazil does not mean that we'll necessarily be running a module on Brazil. We would lose our minds, and the students would not be getting a good education if we did that. But we try to teach principles which can be applied to every single film industry around the world. That's the essential. So that by the time you finish the course, you should have the research ability and the analytical capability and the presentational skills to be able to have a really, really good understanding of your own industry if you don't already have it, and very few people do, by the way. Have a really good understanding of your own industry and also understand the access points into it. But maybe it's really, I shouldn't have jumped the gun. Sorry, Will.
No,
Sorry.
no, I was
Sorry,
going to say
Michael.
that, and Michael may want to come in here, but one thing I would say there is that absolutely, as Chris says, we wouldn't be kind of revising the course modules and content at the start of September when we knew exactly who was coming to be on the program. That said, this is an international film business program. And as Michael's already mentioned, one of the modules you would do in term one introduces you to key and emerging markets. That might not be that it introduces you to every single individual market, but what we're giving you is this global kind of like overview of how the film business is developing. Now, I think the other thing I would say there is that between the academic specialists we have, between the expertise from the London Film School, between the guests that we invite, and we really do invite a very international kind of range of guests to the program from industry. That there is that level of coverage, and I'm pretty confident that wherever someone is from in the world, they would find something that speaks either to directly to their kind of interest, experience, or their location. I think the other thing is, and we always encourage this, is that you can think about how you use the coursework, the assessments that you do, the work that you produce to really kind of engage if you're really keen to sort of pick up on an understanding of the territory or national cinema, that you call home. I mean, a good example there I can think of is we had a student from the Philippines. We've had students who was really keen in looking into kind of questions of how the sort of how kind of tax incentives and film funds would work, and that's what she did her dissertation on. I had a student from Kenya who was interested in understanding, digital distribution and the kind of the proliferation of streaming platforms in sub-Saharan Africa, and he used Kenya as a case study for that. And again, we would align the expertise and really encourage you to do that, because that's also knowledge that you bring to the whole cohort, right? So I think there's that real mix, and that's what's really rich about this program as well, is that the kind of the range of also backgrounds in terms of previous experience. Some people come straight from having studied at undergraduate level. Others come from different backgrounds and experiences in either within the film industry or from TV or sometimes from law, and bringing that sort of experience to bear in the program, I think makes it really, really rich.
Yeah, I was just going to, that's beautifully answered both sides. I mean, there's a huge amount of choice in what people do and what people research. And the matching of that with experts from various territories, various expertise allows for people to choose and investigate deeply what they really want to do. That might be their home country, it might be a new country, it might be oftentimes a co-production country who they want to learn more about and work on a project with. I see we've got another, not to sort of jump over Holly, just another question as we're running up on time. I thought I could just answer that. When does the second term end, and how much time do we have to do after that to do the dissertation? So the team come back after Cannes when they're writing up a final piece of their entertainment value chain piece of coursework. So that is towards the middle of May, at which point people have started already thinking about their dissertations, which they do during spring term. They have ideas. They chose, look at whether a project dissertation is right for them, or maybe a sort of traditional written dissertation is right for them. Develop an idea, get feedback from tutors, then present the pitch, which is a small part of the overall assessment, but pitch that to colleagues and experts in the room, get feedback on that, and then have the rest of the summer, so deadlines in August, for working on that. So several months of working with supervisor and industry mentor throughout the summer. So it's this full year program.
And just one thing, if you had any doubt about the internationalism of the course. And I'm sitting in my own office here at the London Film School. And right here on the poster is a poster of a film I worked on early in my career. That's Michael Mann, the legendary American director, produced by the great Italian producer, Dino De Laurentiis. And then behind me, and a huge part of my education in film, this was an Argentine director whose film ended up in competition at the Berlin Film Festival, Miguel Pereira. And when I tell you that Miguel was in touch with me only this weekend, you'll get a feeling for the kind of length of term and loyalties that go with the film industry. And those are not atypical, by the way. One final comment about the UK and international and whether you return to your home territory or not. I think one of the bits of the calculation is about whether you're happy to be a relatively small fish in a very big pond, which is what LA, London or LA would represent, or whether you want to be a big fish in a relatively smaller pond. And that's very much a question for you, a question for your own psychology, your own confidence, and your own ambition once you've finished the course. And we hope that you all will end up more ambitious after you finish the course than when you joined us.
So thank you, everybody. I think that's all of the questions that we've had. If you do have any other questions, please do get in touch with us. Please do get in touch with the email address we had on screen just there. As mentioned, this recording will be made available to everybody who registered for this webinar. So we'll send it on to you to watch again afterwards. And just an extra note from me. We have lots more of those testimonials from our students and alumni, both on the University of Exeter course page for International Film Business and on the London Film School YouTube page. We've got a playlist actually specifically for International Film Business. So if you want to watch any more of those, there's plenty more where they come from. So please do have a look. But otherwise, thank you very much to everybody for joining us today and have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.
Everyone. Bye.
Bye now.